Welcome back to Hearts of Iron 3. I'm Captain Yellowfin. I'm back after a break, I believe, of hopefully no more than 2 weeks. I was away helping my family with some property that's further away and helping other friends move, and then I had a busy work schedule as well, and I just didn't get around to record or stream, but it was always in the back of my mind, and I actually missed streaming quite a bit, so I'm really glad I can get back to it right now. So what's going on? We're playing Hearts of Iron 3 with the HPP mod. We're playing as Japan. It's November 1st, 1943 in-game. In the west, Japanese troops seized control of Bhutan and they're advancing into India, at least into the northeastern part. The Dutch East Indies are pretty much secured. For infrastructure reasons, we cannot take full control of all the provinces at this point. I think this is not right and it should be looked at. We have also seized control of some of the ports on Papua New Guinea, as well the Dutch part as well as the Australian part. Now we are bombarding Port Moresby with our heavy bomber air fleet, the second of those. We took control of Rabaul, a naval base, with a air base as well, a small one anyway, which is basically our springboard for, well, the southern portion of the Pacific Ocean, which is a theater where not a lot of things have happened so far. I mean, there is some convoy warfare going on, and then there were some naval battles, naval air duels as well, between Japan and the US. But apart from Palau, we as Japan haven't seized any American or other Western Allies islands, really. And in turn, the US have not, or the British or French for that matter, have not tried to land on any of our own air bases or naval bases. That's for the Pacific. In the north, we have retaken control of our naval base in Ostrov Paramusir, the northernmost naval base in the Kuril Islands chain. And we have retaken Sakhalin, or most of it. We always held on to this port in the south, but now we have seized control of all of Sakhalin. We have the 40th Infantry Division here holding this port, and we have pushed up along the coast here of the Japanese Sea. I'm not quite sure what this Taratar Strait is the name of this sea. Here we have pushed along this coast. Khabarovsk, Vladivostok, of course, are under Japanese control. We were thinking about a spring offensive back in spring 1943, and mostly the spring offensive secured northern China and seized the control of this portion here of the far east of Russia. I have to get back into the game a bit again, so it's good for me to get a small, quick overview what's going on here. I think we're driving the Soviets back as well here. Mostly infantry. Yeah, we have driven the Soviets back here as well. They had a couple of provinces here south of this river. And now we're probably... the thing is, we don't have a lot of spare divisions here. So we'll have to see how far we can take this offensive. And the other aspect is moving further north, we'll just spread our forces thinner and thinner. I think it would be much more prudent to try to break through along the Mongolian coast. We're actually also trying to draw Mongolia towards our side, or at least pull them out of the Comintern. Mongolia is a Comintern member. And as such, they are not drifting. But we are trying to rack up some covert operations points. And we can attempt a coup once we reach 20 of these points. But right now, I think these efforts are nice, or put on ice. We'll pick up where we left off. It would be nice to get Mongolia on our side. This would simplify seizing control of the eastern portion of the Soviet Union. Because we could, for instance, take their local supply base in Irkutsk and have a much better strategic situation for us, instead of having to drive them all the way through Siberia. And the final theater, the smallest of the Japanese theaters at this point, is Western China, where we have Third Army. With a total of 5 divisions. We are helped somewhat by our Chinese puppet. They have some troops at least in the area. Although most of them are not very well equipped. But I suppose it's better than nothing. For some reason the Thais have some HQs here. And the Chinese are moving in more militia. And we have heavy bombers, but they're operating in India, so we're going to reattach those. Much better. These transports can be reattached here. These transports as well to the South Pacific. Okay, so Army Group South Himalaya, of course with 2nd and 4th Armies. That's all in order. Okay. So now what's the plan? Kind of have to get back in the game, study what was happening when we left off. It looks like our convoys are mostly okay. There were some attacks here. Nothing to worry about too much. One of our main challenges is, well, a couple. First of all, thanks to some update problems early in the game, Germany is on the verge of collapse instead of being much of a help. And we have Greece and Bulgaria in the Axis. But that's about it. So it's a bit of a weird game in terms of our Axis allies. So we'll just play it from a Japanese point of view without really having a global Axis view, because it got messed with. I think one of our main problems is, as I said, is a lack of troops. We're running out of troops, really. I don't have a way of mobilizing 10 divisions or so for a strong push in, say, in Siberia, for example, or for a strong push in the Pacific. I mean, what I have is I have quite a few paratrooper divisions. I have naval infantry, but yeah, we're running low on manpower. We're actually losing manpower just by having to reinforce the army that we control right now. We are still training infantry divisions, of course. At this point, they are being trained without support brigades, though. Because this way I can train more and a bit faster, I believe, as well. We're also expanding some of our air bases that we control. We're constantly expanding our escort and transport fleets for our convoy routes. And we're still on a smaller naval expansion. Not very heavy units, of course, because right now we're focusing on lighter units such as destroyers and light cruisers. But I think that's pretty much the best we can do right now. I think we're going to push in India as far as we can. There is no reason to stop, really. Eventually it'll be difficult to control the entire coastline. And given the fact that Germany is under heavy pressure, I'm sure eventually our problems will stack up here, because we won't be able to secure every port along a possible Japanese push into India. I'm pretty sure we can drive the Soviets out of China, and maybe eventually China will become more useful as an ally, but that might still take some time. We don't really have any home defenses right now. We have a couple of garrison divisions covering the most important ports, but we have absolutely no strategic reserve. If suddenly a American fleet shows up, we're going to be in trouble. If they show up on the Japanese shores, ready to storm our beaches, that's going to be a problem. We have a powerful navy, We also have transports, of course. We have a couple of fleets, a couple of carrier groups. So we can take on the US for sure, but we're definitely stretched with our land forces. We are researching the next level of agriculture. Maybe that'll help a bit with the manpower. We should also, from time to time, get some manpower from our puppets, such as Taiwan, China, and so on. And by the way, we could release Burma as a puppet, I believe. Nope, not Burma. Could release the Philippines and Indochina as Japanese puppets, but not Burma for some reason. Burma is apparently a government in exile. I'm not sure, I might not have set any war goals. Maybe that's the reason, I'm not quite sure, but right now I can't release them as a puppet. And then we have, we can negotiate with investors. Maybe that'll open up some opportunities. I think we'll spend some time now consolidating our positions. We'll think about the next steps here in the South Pacific. And in India. And here in Eastern Siberia. I kind of want to shift. Right now my focus is here on the east, and that's also where I have most of my forces committed. I would like to eventually shift. I want to take this port, but then I want to shift the focus back towards the east. Maybe I'll probably draw the armored forces here away, the motorized forces, and I'm going to try to see what can be done here about the center. We're going to either try to coup Mongolia out of the Comintern, or we might even consider military action against Mongolia, just to be on the safe side here. So let's unpause and see, probably all sorts of problems will pop up. I think we've already driven these Soviet forces away, so it's only a matter of time until Japanese forces move in. Let's check in on the Indian theater. Here we have we're actually in a pretty good position. because we have pocketed and encircled a lot of allied troops over the last few months. So we're not actually faced with a lot of problems in terms of how many enemy forces. Okay, here we have unloaded some occupation forces. They are fresh from training. The idea is, of course, to free the Marines as soon as possible. We'll leave one infantry division back as an occupation force. And then we'll escort the transports with the Marine infantry to truck. I don't think that the Australian forces are very strong still. So taking Port Moresby and Buin should not be a huge problem. The real question is, when will the Americans show up to help their allies in the South Pacific? I have a feeling that more and more this is likely to happen. We have Australian planes attacking. They're probably attacking from Port Moresby. There is no airbase here, so we can't really provide any air cover. Surface action group has arrived, so we can move out with the transports. Then we'll reorganize the Marines. And personally, I would like to attack several ports at the same time. We'll fly some probing attacks. There seems to be, this port seems to be unoccupied. That's the only strike aircraft that we have. These naval bombers and heavy bombers. We could also attempt an airborne landing. We can also check out Guadalcanal. Oh, now it shows that there is actually a garrison brigade here. We're going to try and push the Soviets back further. This mountain infantry division has been deployed away from the far east. For the moment I'll keep it in reserve here until we have this port secured, and then it'll continue on its way towards the west. We're running low on spies. That's interesting. We're not very effective at training spies. It seems... Oh, the transports came back. That was not really the idea. have some Royal Air Force attacking. Maybe we can encircle more Indian divisions here. That's a general idea. Let's quickly check in on production as well. By the way, I should inform my viewers that I've decided to switch over from a freestyle streaming schedule to a regular schedule where you'll be able to see on my Twitch page when I intend to stream. I'm going to update the schedule for a week in advance. So this way it should be a bit easier to catch my stream. And I think this is going to be more comfortable for the viewers as well as for myself. The main problem is going to be manpower. If we can fix the manpower problems, and actually I just saw something when I was in the diplomacy menu. No, the politics menu. We could enact extended draft, and that would give us more manpower. Would lose some IC efficiency. Yeah, there are some problems with it, and we're going to trigger it when it really becomes a problem. Right now we just lose a lot of manpower. One every day, but I think that's a lot in comparison to some other games I've had. Okay, overall things are going well as well in the Soviet Union, except for the 2nd Armor Division, which is running low in organization. Actually, all my armor divisions are. Let's deal with India first. So this engineer battalion should attach to one of these infantry divisions. Here I would like to cut off these allied divisions and this small pocket against the Himalaya. Then we have won the battle here for this province of Sofiysk, which the 20th Infantry Division is going to occupy. And going to pull away the armor division. Further towards the west. Motorized infantry will still stay here. We have a Japanese infantry division crossing the river. And here we have 3 fully organized infantry divisions, which I think we should use to cut off the port here. Unfortunately, for the moment, we can't support this attack with anything except maybe our naval bombers. Medium bombers. Let's try this. And here we'll only leave a token force on the east side of the river. They will probably not try to attack across the river. One division will be enough to hold them back. Actually, we can move the full infantry division. We'll leave the local troops, the Manchukuo infantry. There's a bit of a chaos going on with the army corps here. Sixth is basically an armor corps. 17th will be tasked with the attack in the north. We'll attach it to 6th Army. This is going to be an Army Group Reserve Division. Or a Theater Reserve Division if that's not possible. Thought we had 2 cavalry divisions here. Apparently there is only 1 right now. This will attach to 11th Corps, more like it. Okay. And 5th Army HQ can move further north. And the Armor Corps will attach to 6th Army. The battle here hasn't begun yet for Usolgin, and we have finished the next level of Destroyer Design Principle. So destroyers are now, for the most part, up to date, well, from the design principle point of view, but not otherwise. Anti-submarine warfare equipment is a bit outdated, as well as AA. So better destroyer engine will increase their range, increase our escorts by 45%. Let's get the destroyer engine then, in that case. The battle for Usolgin has started. Major General Inobashiro is in charge. Hey, Helsink. Good evening. How are you? Yes, this is HPP. I always play HPP. I really should set up an audio alarm for chat messages. No, I have never tried Black Ice. Okay, some rebels in Malaysia again. Should be quickly dealt with. Immediate counterattack by the Soviets. Hopefully my armor division is pretty disorganized at this point. I can't directly support the defense. I'm going to have to wait for the 20th Infantry Division to move in. I could, however, forward deploy motorized infantry. But we are driving the armor away, so we're encircling Nikolaevsk. Our puppet cancels a metal trade agreement. How is the map looking? Just a second. And we have improved airborne warfare equipment. Reducing the weight, okay. So we should be able to theoretically fly bigger divisions, not that we want to. The map looks like this for Japan in the Far East. Southeast Asia is largely under Japanese control. We are advancing into northeastern India. Bhutan has fallen. There was a Soviet incursion into Western China, which we are in the process of reversing. And of course, after the weirdness that was going on in Central Europe, Japan and the Soviet Union ended up at war with each other, but the Soviet Union wasn't, they weren't able to hold the East, and Japan took control basically of Vladivostok and the surroundings. There is some back and forth also on Sakhalin, but I would say overall Japan is firmly in control of the situation. In the Pacific, not too much has happened apart from constant naval engagements taking place, mostly American commerce raiding or convoy attacks, and then some Japanese expansion along the island chain here in the Far East. We have ambitions on these ports, potentially on the Australian mainland, but the big issue is we haven't had a big naval engagement with the US, so they're basically building up their forces, and we haven't really had a decisive engagement yet. In Europe, thanks to some weirdness with a security patch, Hearts of Iron 3 security patch, that I unknowingly installed via Steam. some of the scripting didn't work, and that's why I think all of the events didn't correctly take place early in the game well, basically at the end of the 30s, 1939, 40, 41, and so on. And that's why Germany never managed to really break out in the West. France never fell. Italy never joined the Axis. Germany did land in Norway, but they got into a war with Sweden, and Sweden defeated Germany in the south. And in the north, Germany is holding on, but it's going to lose. The Soviet Union isn't really under a lot of pressure in the West, and has even managed to take some territory from the Germans, and it looks like the German front is about to collapse. If we look at the troop strength here, Germany doesn't really have the manpower at this point. They've lost a province here, which was German held for some time. And actually the French and Italians have crossed the Rhine in the south, and of course Germany is being pushed back. I think at one point Germany held most of Belgium, I believe. It looks like Germany is about to collapse. That's pretty much what has happened. I also have some information for those people interested in the naval game. Let me get my list here. So actually, in the 2 weeks that I wasn't streaming, one point I sat down and I analyzed the naval game. Okay, so we lost. Okay, so on the top of my paper I have the Japanese losses. That's 12 destroyer flotillas, and that's for the entire period. So those losses and the sinkings that we managed to achieve, that includes the second Sino-Japanese War as well. But the majority of sunk ships, of course, were sank after the fall of China. So we lost 12 destroyer flotillas over the entire period. We lost 2 light cruisers, 5 heavy cruisers, 2 battle cruisers, 2 battleships. I'm proud to say we lost no light carriers and no carriers. We lost a total of 8 transports and 7 submarine flotillas. And in turn, from all our adversaries, we sank. And that's France, Britain, the Dutch, the US, and we might have sunk some Italians. I don't remember those. But in its entirety, we sank 49 destroyer flotillas, 37 enemy light cruisers, 15 enemy heavy cruisers, 3 enemy battle cruisers, 19 enemy battleships, most of which were British and French. We sank 5 enemy light carriers and 7 carriers. We sank a total of 8 enemy transports and a whopping 58 enemy submarine flotillas. Yeah, somewhere I wrote down the ratios because I calculated those, although I'm not sure how much sense they make, but I can quickly do them in my head. So in terms of destroyers, the ratio is more than 3-1 for us, for Japan. In terms of light cruiser, the ratio is crazy, is about 20-1. In terms of heavy cruisers, the ratio is 3-1 in our favor. In terms of battle cruisers, it's 2 versus 3. 2 losses, 3 enemy battle cruisers sank. In terms of battleships, it's 19 enemies sunk to our 2. So roughly a ratio of 1 to 10 in our favor. Light carriers and carriers, of course, extremely favorable for us. Transports is roughly the same. We sank as many enemy transports as we lost. And in terms of submarines, the ratio is roughly 1 to 8, 1 in 8. So we lose 1 submarine for 8 enemy submarines sunk. Yep, those were the numbers I came up with. Yeah, that's pretty much the state of the game. Let's keep going. Okay, counterattack from the Indians in northern India. Let's see if we can seal off some enemy divisions here. We're going to have a gap of 1 province here. So this 8 infantry division will have to keep pushing. We'll get moving with the 17th. And the 4th Infantry Division in turn will link up. Problem is here, we're going to need some air support. We're also quite far from our base. Too far, I see. We don't have an air base further east. I think originally the plan was also to capture Kolkata rather than create an encirclement here, but here is something I can do. I have 29th Division and I can intervene in the battle for Madhepura. Yep. So 2nd Armored Division is driven back in Russia as I feared. However, I have 15th Motorized Infantry Division and 20th Infantry Division who are almost made it into the province in question. And to my delight, I have 3 fully organized infantry divisions. We're about to seal off this port and 3 Russian divisions. Yep, Japanese armor is definitely the weak point of the Japanese Imperial Army at this point. We are only looking at a Nepalese HQ, I believe. No, there are some other forces here. Battle for Usalgin is 1. South Pacific. Let's fly another bombing run on Guadalcanal for a few days. And if we find it to be free of enemy troops, we will go for an airborne assault on Guadalcanal. Motorized infantry has moved in. 2nd Armor retreated. Okay. Breakout attempt, of course. One thing after the other. We have infantry moving in. Okay, 14th Infantry is under attack from this garrison division, of course. They try to support the breakout. That's not going to happen. And here we just have to make sure we can hold the line as long as this counterattack is taking place. And we have to stop this attack as well, and then we can start supporting basically what's 17th Corps. Three fully organized infantry divisions here. We have several options. We can push across the front through the forests, or we can try to start pushing the Soviets back along the river. Priority is definitely on capturing this port. But if possible, I don't want to commit more troops in the Far East. So we're going to see for how long they keep this up. I don't think they can throw out 3 infantry divisions here. The attack on Imeni Polini Osipenko will stop soon, certainly after 18th Division arrives. So, we have a counterattack on Katihar, but we have a 3-pronged attack on Madhepur as well, so problem is a lot of actually a lot of these enemy divisions made it into Madhepur, and they'll probably be able to escape. This division is fully organized. Could try to push one another 60 kilometers west and then cut them off. On the other hand, that's not going to work because Nepal, of course, is in the Allies, so they will be able to retreat this way anyway. Maybe we can cut off at least one Indian cavalry division. We could. No, we're going to keep moving. One thing we could do is we could refocus the heavy bombers around here. Okay, and then we finished training an additional infantry division. It's however not going to be the 26th, but believe we're now in the 40s. I think I saw 43, so this is going to be 44th. We're going to need a commander. We'll have time to organize. We're also expanding the radar to secure the home islands, because I fear that eventually we'll get attacked by American bombers somehow. Terrain against the Soviets. Yeah, so what's the terrain against the Soviets? Normally Japanese focuses on armor because you're just fighting jungle and mountain. Yeah, in principle I followed that philosophy by not investing a lot of research into armor. However, I do have 4 armored divisions, light armor divisions, but they each only have 1 regiment of light armor, and then they have 2 regiments of motorized infantry. And as you can see, my technology level isn't terribly high. The highest I have in the truck engine, and then I have infantry support tanks, so I don't really have a lot of armor, but I do have a lot of infantry divisions. Well, not a lot, not like dozens, but I would say I have around probably 10 or so infantry divisions that look like this. I might not have an example here in the north. I do have one here. Which one is it? This one. They look like this. They have 3 regiments of infantry, truck towed support regiment, and then they have infantry support tanks attached. And they have actually proved quite powerful against, pretty much against any land opponent that we had so far. But still, they are of course they're not up to date really. They're quite expensive to produce, I think at this point. Yeah, it's still like, even if I produce it as reserves, they still eat up 10 IC in production, unless there is an additional reduction applied. No, it isn't. So it would be 10 IC to train an additional infantry support tank battalion. So only a selection of infantry divisions have those. Yeah, so what I invested most in was radar. I pushed radar pretty heavily. So I invested a lot of research into electronic engineering, and the idea was to give my ships, my naval assets, my planes an advantage by giving them an adequate level of radar. And so far I can't complain. I would say I'm a bit disappointed with the naval bombers, but otherwise my carrier air groups, my fighters, and my land-based bombers are doing a good job, I would say. If we check the heavy fighters, we can also see the upgrades, for example. I'm giving them extended range. I also try to keep up with the ground attack technologies and tactics. The pilot training isn't really, seems to be a bit behind right now. But at least my planes have radar. It's interesting, I didn't think I was behind in pilot training. So fighter pilot training is up to date. Bomber pilot training also. The close air support training is behind. So I'm not quite sure why it says their pilot training is behind. They aren't even barred from being updated, so should be higher, I think. Okay, so that's going okay. We're holding this province that we took. Now we need these counterattacks to stop so we can clear the pocket. Took care of the Malaysian rebels. Here we need for this infantry division to hold. 4th is moving in. Maybe the air attacks will help. Here we need to integrate the engineer battalion into 31st Infantry Division. We've actually won the Battle of Katihar, so the counterattacks stop. That's good. And the Western Allies try to evacuate the pocket here of Dinapur. That's going to be interesting. Of course, I have more divisions here, but they are on the move, so I can't use them to attack the pocket right now. Trying to up the pressure, so we have a total of 4 divisions now. Trying to close off this pocket. But so far progress is minimal. And I forgot to check Guadalcanal, so I still don't know whether there are any troops here. If there are no troops here, I'm going to land with some paratroopers I have close by. Also want to know, I only have a transport fleet in Rabaul. So here we are looking at 2 of my battle fleets. Both very good commanders. I will not, for the moment anyway, switch around anything with these fleets, but I'm going to forward deploy 1st Carrier Task Force and 1st Fleet. I still haven't decided on a precise invasion plan. There are a couple of small bases left. I don't really think I should go after them individually. I'm rather thinking about whether Australia should be targeted. But this is going to be a bigger operation. I'm going to need more ground forces. What do I currently have here? I have 3 Marine Infantry divisions. A Light Infantry division. Two Airborne Infantry divisions here. And another Marine Infantry division here. That's not going to be enough, I think. Not with the Americans in my back, breathing down my neck when I'm trying to invade Australia or New Zealand. I think we'll try to seize control of some more of these ports that are sprinkled across the southern Pacific Ocean. And eventually we'll have to confront the Americans on the ocean. Do I manage resources manually? How do you mean, like production? Because resources as such, they're just being transported. That's basically, there's not too much to manage in my opinion. Yeah. Wait, that surprises me actually, because the last time I checked, thanks for pointing it out. Last time I checked, I was much higher in all of those. It's interesting. Not quite sure why this is happening, because my convoy routes are safe. What's going on here? I remember we got a few messages that some of our puppets cancelled some of their metal trades. So we're exporting rares and energy. We're importing some metal. We're importing a total of 54. And we use it, yeah, that's because I expanded my industry. I might still, no, we finished the last project of additional IC. But I was expanding my industry throughout the entire game so far. In the beginning more aggressively, and then later on, from time to time, I added a unit of industrial capacity to the production queue, which would then build over some time and eventually be deployed. And obviously every time I deployed industrial capacity, my demand for metal and rares and so on would go up. But my metal was never that low on metal. I think the last time I checked it, probably a few game months ago, I would be around 10,000 or so still. So that has fallen quite quickly. And I'm only noticing now. And then I also had a decision to aggressively expand my industry, which was when I went from full mobilization to, or from war economy to total economic mobilization, which was when we jumped from around 160 IC to 213. Yeah, that's it's going to be a problem. I think I already I'm already pushing my trade AI as much as possible to buy more metal. Stockpile target is currently set to 200%. So it's trying to buy metal wherever it can. But it's not looking too good. Capturing a capital would help, but I suppose we could capture Kathmandu, but I'm not quite sure how much metal we will get from that. We've also started to eye down Tibet and Mongolia, but in both cases it's not going to be a quick mission. I'm not sure even. I mean, Russia does have resources and Mongolia has some resources. But actually in the Soviet Union, we're not going to capture any resources-rich provinces for quite a while. That is not going to happen very soon. There is some metal being produced in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. We could try to get back Western China, of course. But I think the biggest problem is really having a large industry. Australia, of course, would help a lot with industrial resources. But that's a pretty large operation. Which, as we analyzed, is going to be a problem as long as the US aren't beaten decisively. But I remember also that in the past game months we were often struggling with a lack of resource, but I think it was rares more than... I'm not sure anymore, but it might have been metal as well, I'm not sure. But we're often struggling with low resources, and then of course we would just take a hit on IC. So we can, as long as we don't take too many losses on the battlefield and have to do a lot of repairs, we can manage. But it's definitely a good point, a good call that we have to pay attention to our resources. But in the short term there is not much I can do about a shortage of metal. We can try sometimes I try to trade manually. But we are at war with Brazil, okay. So they must have joined the Allies at one point. Yep, that's basically the problem. Countries which would be able to sell to us. I might have... Yeah, I think I have to... Yeah, I know what one of the problems is. I have instructed my trade AI to to not use convoys. Currently the AI is prohibited from setting up import trades that require the use of convoys. So here is something I could do. I could go into production and just build a lot of convoys, because as soon as I allow my trade AI to use convoys, it's going to use convoys and it's going to try to achieve the 200% stockpile target. But that's going to cost me convoys, because everyone and their grandmother is basically trying to kill me. And I'm talking about Canada, the US, Australia, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, Brazil, evidently, and a few other countries. So wherever a Japanese ship shows up, they will try to sink it. That's basically the problem. Maybe I could get lucky and the trade AI would only use convoys in, but that's not really realistic, because I only control the western part of the Pacific Ocean. Convoys going to South America, for example, to Peru, Chile, Venezuela, they would certainly run into allied convoy hunters. I think I'm going to keep the convoys under strict control. I'm just going to deal with a shortage of resources. Okay, so the counterattack here has stopped. So I'm going to mount a counteroffensive here with this infantry division is still, if you just look at it in the division view, it looks pretty organized, but if you select it specifically, you see that the regiments are only to about 75% organized. And here it's even worse. I would have liked to counterattack into Zlatostovsk to I think I might have to anyway. I think my division's 17th Corps here can't take too much of a beating if I don't want to lose the encirclement. Navies are redeploying to Rabaul. We haven't really talked about Western China yet. Say probing attack, see if we can seal off these divisions in the south. There is only a disorganized infantry division and a core HQ, so maybe we can seal off a pocket of Soviet troops here. A support brigade has finished training. We are still losing metal, not as much though. But we're also wasting IC on production. Training a bunch of light infantry divisions without support brigades. So I'm just going to train some support brigades. Take care of the IC loss. Or of the IC waste, I should say. Regularly I would go for a truck towed. Let's do it this way. This battle is actually going well, so we should take off some pressure here. And we have improved cruiser armor. So I was thinking about building some heavier surface units. Right now we're only building light cruisers and destroyers. I was thinking about improving my heavy cruisers so I could launch an additional heavy cruiser class, maybe 3 to 4 roughly. Well, let's check out where we stand on cruisers. Heavy cruisers. The design principle is still 1939. Wait. Oh, that was just cruiser armor in general, not heavy cruisers in particular. So if we research this is going to take a while, and then building them is going to take a while, or commissioning them, because apparently HPP or Hearts of Iron 3 in general models ships when you put them into the production queue not as being laid down in the dock, but rather being launched, and then the time it takes for them to finish the production queue in Hearts of Iron 3 would reflect the time until they would be commissioned into service. Yeah, I think in terms of ships, we'll stick to lighter units in that case. Destroyers, light cruisers for escorts, and aircraft carriers for capitals. We have a lot of areas of technology where we should invest actually into research. We could be improving our range for bombers. Fighters are pretty much up to date, except drop tanks with them give an additional 200 kilometers of range. Industry. These techs would help with the manpower problem. This would help with the research in general. Because we're pretty good in electronics, we could now invest into radar-guided bombs and proximity fuses. They would help. This would improve our fleet in general, plus the support brigades and the radar-guided bomb would improve all airplanes, all bombers, that is. Yeah, okay, then let's actually research the proximity fuse. That sounds interesting. We've also improved armored cars for our support brigades. I think I want to like to improve my tanks, but we have more infantry support tank battalions, and I think it would really help improving those. Let's tackle the big projects first. Mechanical computing. We're going to need first aid and combat medicine. Some land doctrines. Yeah, I suppose maneuver focus and... Yeah, that's probably not really worth it. We have so few armored units. Counter-offensive. Yeah, improving our infantry. We have to keep up to date, of course, in naval and air doctrines. So this attack here is dying down. Battle for Madhepura is still ongoing. And Major General Yoshitake is commanding the battle here. That would be the commander of 8th Division. let's adjust this here, and then we have convoy attacks again. Submarines hunting on the edge of the areas that we control. We have some light fighters here. How potent is the space? 5. We could redeploy. We have naval bombers here. I have to make sure that we keep building convoys and escorts. So I'm going to add some escorts to the production queue. Convoys will finish this month actually, so we're going also to add some convoys. Battle of Zolgin was won. The Soviets are even retreating in the west. That's interesting. So I'm going to attack here. I'll try to clear out this pocket here. And then we have won the Battle of Madhepura finally. So we might only, I think we're only going to trap one cavalry division actually. Okay. Yugoslavia stops buying rare materials from us. We're still in trouble for metal. What's actually we're exporting energy. I think we have to stop exporting energy. Okay, battle 1 here. Okay, some American submarines are moving here. I have a carrier task force nearby patrolling. And we have improved small navigation radars. And this will help mainly our carrier air groups. That's why I put it into research in the first place. We're going to keep researching this. This will again improve our carrier air groups, make them more powerful. We have a garrison in Buin, but it looks like there is nobody in Guadalcanal. So we can actually attempt an airborne assault. And we have improved the submarine air warning equipment. We're going to keep researching. Yeah, we'll keep researching this. Not that we have a lot of submarines left, but we're training a flotilla right now. Only one. I would like to have more, but it's not in the cards right now. Improving CVs. I'm not quite sure how useful CV positioning is. I guess, I don't know, I would have to ask about this on the forums, because CVs aren't supposed to be on the front line, basically, meeting other fleets. So I'm not quite sure whether that's really a useful doctrine to research. Okay, so we have airborne assault at Guadalcanal. There was no resistance. A lot of research projects finish right now. Light cruiser design principle. Okay, that's now ahead of time. We'll cancel this. And instead, could just go for the next level of light cruiser armament. But that's pretty much up to date. We're only at the end of 1943. This is on 1944. So instead, more range for the bombers, more range for the fighters, better escorts. Industrial techs, steel and oil refining wouldn't hurt really. Or the radar guided bomb. This would really help our navy. Naval doctrines are pretty much up to date. Cruiser escort doctrine could use some improvements. Radar combat impact could also be improved. So many projects. Let's think long term. Let's help the steel production. We're going to run out. Let's think about Port Moresby. Let's take this naval and air base here. So we already have a fleet with a carrier task force close by. No, actually we'll go here to pick up the marine infantry that's already in La Haye. These transports can redeploy to truck for the moment. We should check in on India. See if we can close. I think we can close the pocket. Let's attack the cavalry. So we can maybe slow it down, prevent it from leaving the encirclement. Now the problem that worries me is low national, low domestic spies. So I'm going to focus on counter-espionage. But this might not be enough. Okay, now we are ready for the landing in Port Moresby. Okay. Where are the bombers? They'll focus here. Take back the, or take for the first time this Russian port. My carrier air groups have no range whatsoever. And we're about to run out of metal. And we get resources from our puppets, but it's something we don't really need, which is money. I would have preferred some metal, to be honest. We have sent in our close air support. There are not a lot of forces left here. Another support brigade finishes training. My plan here with these cheap infantry divisions is to build up some pro forma national defense, homeland defense. Yeah, and the IC already starts to collapse because of the lack of metal. Wait, naval strike? Air combat, okay. Maybe we can overrun all these HQs and 9 infantry brigades. Well, some of them are 6 infantry brigades, 3 cavalry brigades. Maybe we can overrun them and capture them anyway. Attacks on our convoy in Indonesian waters. However, we have a fleet and a carrier task force here. And the Singapore Naval Yard has even repaired most of its damaged ships. Second Fleet has 8 ships, and its commander can command 12 ships. We have okay, so we'll put the heavier units back into the fleet. Light cruiser will protect the transports. The submarine flotilla and the damaged transport flotilla will stay in the naval yard. And we'll venture out with 2nd Fleet and 3rd Carrier Task Force to go and see who's hunting our convoys. Ooh, American submarines are showing up that far west. That's concerning. And we have improved radar. That's at least something. Now ahead of time, I'll cancel this. We caught a American spy. So are we now? We've lost even more spies. I'm going to have to keep an eye on the spy situation, and we have an investment opportunity for 500 units of money. We can get increased air organization until for 12 months. Yep, we'll do that. And we can start an additional research project. Okay, the next project is to finish our battle line cruiser doctrine and improved amphibious warfare equipment, as well as destroyer crew training. So what to research next? Still haven't started on better infantry tanks. Yeah, I think we have to get started someone, because most of these projects are pretty expensive with the yellow numbers. So we're now at 0 metal, and we took a hit on IC. American submarines are over there. Okay, we have landed in Port Moresby. Let's move in with the transports. And let's move back out with the Marine Infantry. I think we should move over right here to this port. Follow with the carrier. Carrier task force. And of course with the transports with the Marine Infantry. Battle line cruiser doctrine for improved heavy and light cruiser positioning. That's here. Yeah, we'll keep researching this because unless maybe we want better submarine chasers. Although, do we? Is that really a priority? Maybe it's more, I think it's more important to have better cruisers. Okay, we run into 2 American submarine flotillas, which are being hunted by a total of 6 carrier air groups. And the Americans lose them immediately. I would be very salty if this had happened to me. But this way around, of course, I'm happy. We can cancel the bombardment of Port Moresby. We're going to have to pick up some occupation forces. What are the next naval assets that we're going to obtain? Submarines, a light carrier. What about the carrier air groups are going to take some more time. Questionable. Yeah, I don't think overrunning them really worked. Encirclement has not worked because we're out of supplies, I suppose. Don't we have any spare transports somewhere? If air transports sitting in on the mainland. Do we have spare commanders? We do have spare commanders. We'll start, or we'll split a 5th air transport. We don't have a lot of air commanders though. Is this the closest airbase we have? That's disappointing. At least we're catching some enemy spies. We don't have the range to supply these troops here. Try to attack, but I doubt we're going to catch anyone. What? An uprising on East Java. Take care of this quickly. Also, I wanted to see what our convoy routes are transporting. Very little metal, which is weird because we actually produce metal in Surabaya. That was basically the whole idea of capturing the Dutch East Indies, was to improve our supply of industrial resources such as metal. But when I look at the convoy routes here, I don't see a lot of metal shipped. So metal is shipping from Burma. But not from the Dutch East Indies. At least we're getting some oil. It looks like green is resources. So we don't have a resource convoy to Surabaya. Even though we have spare convoys. they are shipping none. The ones that come from these Indonesian ports. Some oil from Balikpapan. Oil flows, but not really. Rangoon, Nagasaki ships 4 units of metal. Kota Baru ships metal. That's a Malaysian port. Manila ships metal. Tianjin ships a lot of metal. In Korea. But not these Dutch East Indies ports. I don't know why that is. I have a lot of troops now in Java. It has something to do with so the revolt risk reduces metal production by 77%. Yeah, I'm improving security training of my infantry divisions. Hopefully that will help. Okay, and we run into a British fleet, 2 light carriers, a light cruiser and a destroyer flotilla. Wait, so they don't lose any. They don't lose any ships, that's crazy. Maybe we can reacquire them. Catching a lot of spies though. Okay, now we're sinking. I think we already sank the destroyer flotilla. Maybe the light carrier will go down as well. No, actually their entire fleet was destroyed. Ashigara took some damage. kind of difficult to evaluate post fact. Who sank who? Maybe it was Hiryu. The carrier escorts, did they sink anything? Oh. We have a lot of old cruisers, light cruisers escorting my carrier fleets. I think this rather modern destroyer sank the the submarine flotilla earlier. So I'm desperately waiting for a couple of light cruisers to be commissioned. These very old light cruisers are really nothing to be proud of. And we're still waiting for some reinforcements. Patrolling battle fleets sinking convoys. We still haven't landed in Buin. Improving destroyer crew training. Let's get some additional ground attacks in. Better organization and morale, better positioning for destroyers. That's in naval doctrines. Let's improve our light cruisers. I think those are properties that will update air attack and positioning. So if we select the light cruiser, the yellow properties will update. It's those values actually. Yeah, they might. They'll probably stay the same for a given generation of ships. Ashigara will head back to Singapore for repairs. 14th submarine flotilla finished training. Okay, landed on Buin. Pick up the Marines. We'll pick up the paratroopers as well. We're wasting IC on something. Reinforcement, okay. It should soon switch over to production. As for garrison, I will wait until this infantry division finishes training and they will move to garrison the newly captured port. Now Shigara will be put into the naval yard for repairs. We're dealing with the rebels here. I'm going to try to bring more occupation troops here to Java. Maybe I can increase the metal output. And this, of course, will be this must be 45th then. I don't know if this is going to help, but it's pretty much the only option I have to increase occupation. It's December 1943. I'm wondering about the weather. Minus 5.6 degrees. 25% frozen in eastern Siberia. And with the arrival of 18th Infantry Division northwest of Nikolaevsk, hopefully we can take care of this situation here. A transport flotilla finished production. I'll put them into the reserve fleet. It's a very small pocket, only 2 divisions, but better than nothing. Yeah, the situation in Europe is definitely deteriorating. The Netherlands have been liberated. Yep, the Western Allies are crushing Germany. German troops holding out far north in Norway, but pretty much completely disorganized, on the verge of total defeat. Surprisingly, Germany holding on against the Soviets. That really surprises me. Soviet Union looking very weak here. But Germany is losing the war in the northwest, in Central Europe. We're going to take Nepal out of the picture. Then eventually I have to swing back south. Not to overstretch my troops. Katihar is unoccupied at the moment. And we have improved amphibious warfare equipment, better toughness for our Marines. I've neutralized the Australian spy. We're still on only 3 domestic spies. We have 2 spies in the US. They're at a whopping 509 I see at the moment. But my spies estimate some, that's weird, descent yet 100% national unity. It's weird that the US are so powerful. You're spying on their military, so we can see a little bit what's going on with their forces. Pretty strong motorized, their motorized infantry has 7 in attack and 4 in defense. Their infantry has 6 in attack and 4 in defense. Let's compare this to our own. We have motorized infantry 5 and 3. And what about our regular infantry? 5, 3 as well for the most part. Okay. I think we are pretty much up to date in terms of infantry. Infantry technologies. Yeah, we are for the most part. Anti-tank guns could use some love. I will take care of this. Okay, an additional division of occupation troops has arrived. It looks like more divisions don't really change anything. Maybe it's about the suppression technologies rather than the number of divisions present. I'm going to cross the, I believe this is the Ganges River. So this way I can establish bridgeheads on the other side of the river. I'm going to try to cut the Soviets off one more time. Soviets and their Persian allies. South Pacific on Christmas of 43. I could try to move on French, not quite sure. French territories here. Is this Tahiti? Maybe. What about Nauru, maybe? Still have some marine infantry left here. Counterattack by the Soviet 69th Mechanized Infantry Division. We find some more American submarines here. Oh, a light cruiser and Soryu took some damage here. I'm going to relieve this carrier task force. We don't have radars on Millie. The energy stockpile is stabilized, but we're still low on metal. Doesn't look like Nauru is defended by the United Kingdom. First carrier task force repair. We'll have these fleets rebased for the moment. I think here I can attempt a river crossing. Since we only have, we're only looking at Nepalese militia. And we have another bridgehead across the river. And then actually 18th Corps can attack towards Kolkata. One little thing we need to do, I want to deploy one division of occupation troops in Medan. Germany holding on, but barely. Important cities have fallen to the enemy, especially the Ruhr heavy industry region. And we have more rebels to deal with. This is probably going to worsen only with Netherlands reinstated as a country. Here we're dealing with a Soviet counterattack. Wait, where's the port? Ah, transports aren't here yet, but then I'll be able to ship off 11th Garrison Division. Meanwhile, 3rd and 27th infantry divisions have reached the Nepalese border. They will now start taking Nepalese territory. We have more troops along the Nepalese border, but they are earmarked for other objectives. I'm going to try to attack here to slow the enemy down so we can maybe trap 2 divisions. Okay, crossing the Ganges River, fairly straightforward. Now it's time for 18th Corps to do the same in Kushtia. Second division is halfway in Yushashan. And we have improved bomber ground crew training. This is in air doctrines. We'll switch out of this for now and we'll study night mission training. We have, of course, also landed on Nauru. We'll have our fleets patrol the area, and the Americans show up. Probably maybe a counterattack. Ooh, light cruiser destroyer is attacking our transport fleet. Going to need some help here. Okay, naval engagement. There are not too many Americans left, but okay, so we sank 2 destroyer flotillas. My transports will have taken damage. Actually, most of them are okay, but Tenryu took some damage. Tenryu being an older light cruiser. And we're engaging the remainder of the American flotilla with our carrier task force. Should be okay. Okay, French fleets are here as well. We're going to need a radar site here as well. Moment, we don't really have the occupation forces for a lot of the ports that we capture, so Rabaul is unguarded. Okay. Pocket here has been taken care of. This will free, actually we can take this infantry division, move it somewhere else. We have a fairly modern light cruiser here. Let's go pick up this infantry division. Okay, so we have 18th Corps pushing on Kolkata east of this river. And then we have 21st Corps pushing south here. Meanwhile, 27th Mountain Infantry Division conquers Kathmandu. And 31st and 24th Infantry Divisions will attack north of Varanasi. And naval engagements with the Americans. Which went well for us. 4 American heavy cruisers sank. Although Yamato took some damage. As well as Mogami. Let's see if we can sink the remainder. Where did the Americans go? That's what I would like to know. Yamato and Mogami will pull back to Truk. No. Not First Fleet though. And also we have 5th Fleet close by. Now it's a bit easier because we actually haven't sunk a lot of American ships yet. So Hisen sank USS Portland. Mono sank USS Louisville. Tony didn't sink anything in the most recent engagement, but Chokai sank USS Chester. But I urgently need more modern light cruisers. And we have advanced aircraft carrier design principles. Brilliant. So we'll switch out of this for now. We'll improve light carrier. I think maybe we should get underway replenishment to keep our fleet potent enough for the high seas. We have also improved the destroyer engine. One of the more recent projects. Now let's improve our destroyers' anti-air defense. We'll bring this division to Rabaul as soon as we can. But I think I'm going to take a break here until tomorrow. Been streaming for 3 hours, 3.5 hours almost. We'll continue here tomorrow at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock Central European time. I put it in my on the page, on the starting page of my Twitch channel. That's the schedule that I'm now using. So if you want to see when I'm streaming next, just go to my Twitch page and check out the schedule below the video portion. I want to thank everybody who stopped by. I hope I'll see you soon again. Take care until then, stay safe.